The Black Sea is a sea of paradoxes. At its surface, it shimmers and glows. Bioluminescence lights the waves, the water literally glowing with life. And yet, drop down into the depths and everything changes. The light disappears. Oxygen becomes scarce. And the chemistry of the water becomes hostile to most of the life that thrives above. But within that deep sea void is something eerily extraordinary. Something only made possible by the Black Sea paradox. Bioluminescence is a defense mechanism performed by marine microorganisms. A chemical reaction that can be triggered by the movement of water, a single oar stroke, a passing fish, the splash of a wave. When disturbed, these microplankton emit a flash of blue-green light, a distraction to the predator, a warning to others. In a split second, it is gone. So tiny that alone it would be impossible to see. But when millions of these plankton flash at the same time, it is as if the surface of the ocean is ignited, a cool, neon blue glow, mesmerizing in the inky waters under a dark night sky. While still water remains black, moving water glows, and the Black Sea comes alive. Scientists have documented this phenomenon in the Black Sea itself, measuring bioluminescence in its coastal waters and tracking how it changes throughout the year. It varies with the abundance of the tiny microorganisms responsible. Populations of these bioluminescent plankton, such as Noctiluca scintillans, increasing during the spring and summer. A reminder that the surface of the Black Sea is teeming with life. But the deeper you go, the fewer living, luminous plankton there are. Requiring sunlight for photosynthesis, phytoplankton only survive in the upper 200 meters of the ocean. They absorb sunlight and carbon dioxide, forming a baseline for the marine food web. As they grow, die, and are consumed, organic material is continually being produced in the upper waters. But some of it eventually sinks, and as it descends, it enters a part of the Black Sea where almost everything we associate with a living ocean begins to disappear. Something changes down there. Something invisible separates the world above from the world below. Something invisible, yet lethal. A silent killer. The Black Sea is unique amongst marine environments. It is a sea of two halves, quite literally. Its very geology and geography have made it that way. With the narrow Bosphorus Strait connecting the Black Sea to the Mediterranean, salt water seeps in. Salty and dense, this water is different from the fresh water that flows from the surrounding rivers. Cascading down from the mountainsides, the water from 25 major rivers empties into the Black Sea. Precipitation tops it up, and fresh water and salt water don't mix. They have different densities. One travels one way, one travels the other, opposing currents gliding past each other in the darkness. The heavier salty water below the lighter fresh water. Even with turbulent undercurrents, the two layers barely mix. Simple physics. So, with the density structure making vertical mixing almost impossible and inefficient, the deep sea environment becomes more isolated from the surface. Whilst the fresh water on the surface is full of oxygen, nutrients, and life, the salt layer 100 meters below is not. Surface water interacts with the air above it. Oxygenated from this interaction and the living biological processes happening all around it. These essential components are usually mixed with deeper water, oxygen and nutrients being dragged into the depths. But in the Black Sea, with such strict stratification restricting this exchange, oxygen cannot be efficiently replenished at depth. And so the building blocks for life are withheld from the deeper water. The Black Sea isn't running out of oxygen because there isn't any oxygen. It's running out because the deep water is effectively cut off from the mechanism that would normally replenish it. Organic matter produced near the surface sinks into deeper water. As it is broken down in the upper layers, oxygen is consumed where aerobic respiration can occur. But the strong density stratification limits the replacement of that oxygen from above. And as the organic matter sinks further down towards the sea floor, the oxygen becomes depleted, and aerobic decomposition gives way to anaerobic processes. The result is a deep water environment in which oxygen is essentially absent, and other chemical processes take over. Microbes that rely on the reduction of sulfate to survive. A process carried out by sulfate-reducing bacteria, producing the toxic gas hydrogen sulfide. But the transition from oxygenated water to anoxic water is not a sudden drop-off. Between the two is an invisible chemical boundary known as the redoxcline. Here, oxygen concentrations fall rapidly, while the chemistry of the water changes from oxidizing to reducing. Other chemical compounds begin to dominate, and below the boundary, hydrogen sulfide becomes increasingly abundant. There is no visible wall separating these two worlds, no line on the surface to mark where one ends and the other begins. But cross it, and the chemistry of the water is fundamentally different. What looks like the same Black Sea from above has become an entirely different environment below. The Black Sea is the largest anoxic region on Earth. This doesn't mean nothing exists there. It means that organisms and chemical processes that depend on oxygen are severely constrained. And the deep Black Sea develops a very different chemistry from the surface. But what happens below this layer? If things drift downwards, crossing the invisible boundary into the redoxcline, a 23-meter ancient Greek vessel, lying a mile below the surface undisturbed for 2,400 years. Its mast is still intact, the rudder still visible at the stern. The rowing benches where the sailors would have sat are still there, still in their position. But normally, a wooden ship sinking into the sea is not the beginning of its preservation. It is the beginning of its destruction. So how can a wooden ship like this still exist after thousands of years underwater? Wood is an organic material, and in oxygen-rich seawater, a whole ecosystem is ready to break it down. Microorganisms colonize the wood and begin decomposing it. Physical disturbance can break apart weakened structures. And then there are shipworms, marine bivalves that bore into submerged wood. They consume the material and, with the help of symbiotic bacteria, digest components of the wood. The fibers, the lignin, and the cellulose, leaving little trace, erasing sunken ships from the sea floor. But the Black Sea is different. It has an archaeological advantage. Below the redoxcline, oxygen is essentially absent, and that severely limits or alters many of the biological processes that would normally contribute to decomposition. Organisms such as shipworms cannot thrive in these anoxic conditions. There are few fish or invertebrates to feed on the organic matter, fewer organisms than usual to break up the nutrient-rich deposits. Many of the microbes and biological processes associated with oxygen-rich decomposition are severely constrained. That doesn't mean decay stops. The Black Sea does not freeze a ship in time. It does not act like some kind of underwater preservative, and not every material survives equally well. Instead, its chemistry removes or restricts some of the most important biological processes that would normally naturally destroy the wood. The result is not perfect preservation. It is survival for extraordinarily long periods, long enough for archaeologists to recover structures that would normally have disappeared. A wooden structure that might otherwise have been consumed, weakened, and erased can remain recognizable for centuries or even millennia. And that is what makes the ancient vessel lying on the Black Sea floor so remarkable. Its survival isn't simply an archaeological coincidence. It is a consequence of the environment. And scientists have found evidence that this isn't an isolated case. On the bottom of the Black Sea lies an underwater archive, a graveyard of sunken ships, providing a glimpse into ancient times, a window into our past. The Black Sea Maritime Archaeological Project is one of the largest and most ambitious projects of its type ever undertaken. It investigates what happened when the Black Sea levels rose after the last ice age, the impact on the area's geology, ecology, and environment, human settlements, livelihoods. The project wasn't simply searching for ancient ships. Using sonar, remotely operated vehicles, and other underwater survey techniques, researchers were mapping a vast landscape beneath the Black Sea. The seabed was revealing traces of human activity that had been hidden for centuries, and the unusual chemistry meant that some of the material they encountered was remarkably well preserved. What might have been little more than a disturbance on a sonar image could turn out to be the remains of an entire vessel. And unlike a conventional shipwreck, where the wooden structure may have disappeared long before archaeologists arrive, these wrecks could retain enough of their original form to reveal how they were built and what they carried. During the investigations, the multinational team have uncovered more than 40 shipwrecks, many lying in the darkness, in the anoxic zone, remarkably well preserved. Some from the Ottoman Empire, some from the Byzantine Empire. Together, they show that the unusual preservation conditions are not confined to one remarkable ancient vessel. Ships from different centuries have survived within the same deep-water environment. The chemistry of the deep basin has effectively allowed fragments of these ancient worlds to survive beneath the water. The way in which the Black Sea preserves these shipwrecks gives us clues into what life was like before, the kind of maritime trade that was prevalent in the Black Sea at the time. The anoxic zone of the deep Black Sea isn't simply an inhospitable place where life struggles to exist. For objects that sink into it, it can become a place where the normal processes of destruction are fundamentally altered. The chemistry of the water has changed the balance between destruction and survival. The Black Sea represents an unbelievable vertical system, one in which the surface is abundant in life. You would never guess that below its waters lies an inhospitable environment so severe that not even some of the commonest marine vertebrates can survive. And yet, it is the transition from a world of oxygen and life to one of anoxic chemistry that gives the Black Sea its unique characteristic. Passing through that chemical boundary is like entering a different world. Above it, life thrives in oxygenated water. Below it, anoxic chemistry takes over. And in that darkness, processes that would normally erase history are constrained. Lost ships can survive. The Black Sea doesn't simply hide history. Its chemistry changes what happens after history disappears.